how do you get over being angry? It's interesting how you can start off your day with this attitude that you're going to be thankful for your life. You're going to be focused on blessings that you have. You're going to have this positive attitude. And then, before you know it, it just seems like a negative attitude can sneak up on you. And without even realizing it was coming, suddenly you have gone from being positive to being angry about something. And maybe it's just something that somebody said to you. Maybe it's something that kind of just hit you the wrong way, and suddenly it's that trigger and you just are angry about something. You're angry at somebody. And then instead of being positive, you're moody, you're brooding, you're thinking, how dare you, right? And the crazy thing is, when you step back and you look at these events, usually they're actually really small things. It's not even significant at all. And yet, it was that thing that flipped the switch and just turned your attitude 100% around in a flash. We've all been there. So what do you do? First of all, understand that anger and frustration and all of those negative feelings are not a problem. They're not something wrong. They are healthy mechanisms that exist in our life for a reason. Just like if you go and you touch a hot stove and you feel that burning sensation, it's a signal to take your hand away from a hot surface that could do you harm. So anger is not really a bad thing. It's more of a teacher. It's there to be a tool. I don't know if you've ever been to the dentist to get work done, but you might know that it can be dangerous if you've had a local anesthesia and the area that was being worked on was numbed, because you might wind up biting your tongue and you won't even feel it because you have that pain suppression agent that the dentist used so that you could be worked on. Well, it's great. It prevented you from being in pain unnecessarily. And yet, if you bite your tongue or you bite your lip accidentally, you would easily see illustrated how eliminating pain can be worse than the effect of being in pain in a proportionate and healthy way. And I think when we feel angry, one of the first things we do is we start to think we need to think our way out of it. We need to figure out how to get over it. But the irony is, the more you think about it, the more you focus on trying to think your way out of that box, the bigger it gets. Because the more you think about it, the more power spiritually you give it. So being able to accept pain and understand that anger is just a form of pain, and it's also something you don't need to get over. It's something that you embrace, you acknowledge, and then you navigate forward from. That can be a helpful tool to make that experience a lot more navigable. Now, the first thing you really should do, I think, when you're angry is ask yourself why. And the first thing you got to rule out is the thing you immediately thought made you angry. It isn't that thing your boss said or that thing your spouse did. It's not that direct event that triggered you. That's not what made you angry, most likely. It's something deeper. It's what that reminded you of. And understanding that can be a good clue as to what you should do differently. Because anger isn't something that you should ignore. And pain is not something you should ignore. It is something you should look at and say, how can I move forward in a way that's going to be more conducive to peace in my life? And maybe you don't know 100%, and that's okay. Maybe the path forward is just to accept yourself and to be patient and to surrender in that moment to things beyond your control. Maybe that's all there is for you to do in the moment. Maybe you just don't really have a sure answer as to what you ought to do differently to resolve those deep-seated things that don't have clear solutions. And that is okay also. But what you can know 100% and be sure of, which will help, is that emotional pain and anger and all those things are not about other people. It's a personal thing. When we blame other people for something that's going on inside our minds and our hearts, not only are we less likely to be forces of inspiration in the world around us and unable to move forward ourselves, we're also really ignoring the entire purpose of that mechanism that exists to guide us. We're taking a tool that's supposed to be something that helps us to grow, and we're making it about somebody else. We're taking an opportunity for us to reflect on our own personal journey, and we're using it as evidence that we should stop focusing on our own personal journey so that we can instead focus on others whose journey is ultimately not really our business to control or manage. So the first thing you can do whenever you feel frustrated or angry is to remember that it's a personal thing. It's not about that other person. It's not about that event. It's about you considering the path of your life and finding a way to invest your time, your energy, your thoughts differently so that you can have more peace in the future. And yes, sometimes that does mean adding some distance between you and toxic people, or things which are prohibiting growth in your life. But if that's the case, then you've got to know what you're going toward. Because if all you're doing is meditating on things that you want to get rid of in your life, but you're not really focusing on what you want to add, what you're running toward, then it's all kind of for nothing. So, to wrap up, remember it's okay to sometimes not feel okay. You don't have to 100% resolve something to move on from it. And another thing that's good to do is just to stay active, to immerse yourself in a hobby or a routine, something that adds joy into your life, and something that distracts you from those negative feelings and thoughts, and instead empowers you to be more free to meditate on things that are positive. And quite often I think our tendency when we feel unhappy is to go into a cycle of not doing things that we'd planned to do and starting to feel a bit depressed or something like that, and then we're just in a fog and we're not really doing anything other than wallowing in our own sense of self-pity and misery, and beginning that vicious cycle of feeling sorry for ourselves and being bitter toward those around us. So don't stop doing positive things when you feel negative, because if you do that, that winds up being kind of a compounding problem. Because now, in addition to the fact that you are feeling bad, you're also no longer doing things which potentially would make you feel better. Remember that you don't have to have solutions to every problem, and it's okay to feel the way you do. But that also does not have to define your future course, though it should guide it. As always, wherever you find yourself, try to be at peace with yourself and with others, and good luck on your journey. Thank you.